What's up, pretty gang? It's your favorite nail tech Peaches back with another video, and for today's video we are not doing another Halloween set, but what we are going to be going over is something that can help you in any set. We are going to be going over encapsulation and how to get a nice smooth look. Okay, this video is going to be complete application all the way in real time. Okay, you guys can see this is the end result of the shape. Once I did shape, I didn't feel a need to really throw it in there because the application came out pretty smooth, and you guys have seen me shape 1,000,001 times. Okay, before we get started, our subscriber is Miriam Gad. Y'all make sure you're subscribed, turn the notifications on, all that good stuff. Okay, so the color that we're using is called Sachet by Not Polish, of course, because if not Polish, it's not nothing. Liquid is going to be Young Nails. And then so I was showing my client basically that I did have some little sequins that she could add because she was interested in like really a lot of gold, and these are actually the little signs, you know, birthday month signs and all that stuff, but she wasn't interested. But you know, when a client tells me kind of what they're interested in, I always just show them like, hey, also if you like this particular look, here's something that might add and you know, a little extra something to it. So the look that she showed me came from my page. Okay, and she thought that it was a what is that called? She thought it was a jade set. But if you look, how can I say this? If you look on my page, you will see that this set is actually not a jade set. It's just a clear green marble. And she wanted to specifically make sure that I have any like Libra symbols, which of course I did. I haven't bought any new like of the signs, but I luckily did have 2 Libras, and so we were set there. Okay, so the difference really between a jade set and just a classic clear color marble is the fact that, in my opinion, okay, if you look on my page, I do have plenty of jade sets. Jade sets are very much more complex. With this look, we are literally doing clear and green marbled, but jade sets, I feel like it's a lot more strategic of where you're putting the gold, where you are mixing in areas of white and clear. I use multiple greens. So I was explaining to her, I'm like, we definitely can do a jade set, but the picture you showed me is not necessarily a jade set, if that makes sense. And she was like, no, that's fine, I really love this is exactly what I want. I said, okay, perfect. So I've done a video already using gold flakes on how to use them on top of the nail, not encapsulated. So today we're gonna be able to go really in detail on how to use them inside the nail. All right, so for marbles, you guys have seen me marble before. This is just a classic clear and color marble. So I lay down a little bit of clear and a little bit of color so we could run it through. Keep in mind, because the base is clear, like literally the tip, even if I use a natural color base, you're not gonna have to keep using hella clear acrylic, because no matter what, like once you cap it, everything's gonna be clear anyway. You see what I'm saying? So for some areas you're gonna see me use just straight up green, other areas you're gonna see me use clear, so that way I can get the marble effect. But all in all, it'll be fine. Okay, so for the gold, from the set on my page, because like I said, she did use my own set as inspo, it had a lot of gold, and I think that's really what she loved about it. I love how my clients, they really love like bold, you know, real nice ghetto, just real hoochie mama type stuff. And so I chop up my gold flakes. You guys saw how I did that. I take a few large pieces and I chop them up into what I know I will need, and I just basically strategically lay them down. Personally, it works best if you're laying the foil onto a wet surface, and then I will lay a clear thin layer, okay, on top. You see, they're still gonna move, and that's the reason why I put a thin watery layer of clear on top, is so they will not move when I go back to cap them later. If you don't do that and you try and just completely cap as soon as you're done, those gold flakes are not going to stay in place. They're going to move, they're going to shift. Okay, so you guys remember how before I always tell you, like, okay, for basic sets your application should be like no more than 15 minutes per hand if you are a person that is like not as fast. Okay, so for encapsulated sets, right, you're gonna want them to be no more than like 30 minutes per hand. And you can see based on this video is literally 30 minutes long. And you know, time varies for each person, but this is just a good time to frame for you guys to know that, hey, within this time, no matter what the length, you're gonna be able to finish your appointment like within 2.5 hours if you're trying to speed yourself up. Okay, that's just a guide. So for encapsulated sets, you need to make sure whatever is underneath, if it is a design, whether it's ombre, marble, whatever, the cuticle needs to be flush already. okay? Because I'm telling you right now, if you do not get that cuticle area nice and flush, especially with marbles that include clear, when you go to cap, it's not ever going to get flush, because what's going to happen is whatever is not flush in the cuticle area, like if there's a gap or any type of things like that around, basically the clear is gonna, the cap, the clear acrylic that you lay on top, basically that's just gonna seep in first to all of the areas of missing acrylic, and then it's gonna level out, or attempt to level out, and it's gonna end up looking lopsided and lumpy. So that's why you will see me making sure I always put clear near the cuticle, or if I don't put clear near the cuticle, I'll just make sure that there's no product there at all, because you're gonna want it to be nice and thin. Okay, so you can see, once again, once I'm happy with the placement, I put a very thin but wet layer, let it set for a second, and then I will just blend out the edges. Okay, so although we are doing a marble, we want to make sure that this marble is still not extremely lumpy and bumpy. No matter what you're doing, honestly, okay, let me put it to you like this. Whatever is being encapsulated, you're going to want to make sure it's some type of smooth, okay? Yes, it may not be perfect application, but you're going to want to make sure it's some kind of smooth, because the clear cap, the clear encapsulation, whatever word you like to use for it, it's going to make everything, it's just another layer. So it's going to make everything lumpier and bumpier if your base is already not smooth. So you can see how I'm marbling. And because this is clear in color, I'm just working pretty thin and pretty, you know, some pretty wet, a little wetter than what I normally would do marbles in a way, just because if not, the clear is going to thicken up, because clear is the strongest color acrylic, even though it's not color, but like, yeah, it's very strong. So it will just solidify some type of quick, if that makes sense. Like, it's not going to solidify right away, but if you use too much at once, then yeah, it's going to definitely like not marble, and it's going to sit there and just, yeah. So all these gold flakes, I'm just really putting thick chunks near each other. I really was going for that, like, hey, I'm rich and you're not type of look. I feel like I very much captured, y'all. So all in all, I was pretty happy with this look. The first time I did, I don't really want to say the first time, but when I did it on the previous client, it looked great. So I was very happy to know that like she used my work as inspo, because honestly, you guys, it might sound kind of weird, but a lot of people do not come to appointments and use my work as inspo. They might show me pictures of other people's work or stuff like that. So when people actually bring my work and like, oh my gosh, I love how you did this, this is what I want, I get very like excited about it. So you can see, normally what I would do is I would do all 10, you know, all 10. So normally what I would do is I would do a finger and then cap it if I need to. If I was doing ombre, I'd get all the ombre out the way and then, you know, cap it as I go. When I'm using extreme gold flakes like this, I like to let the nails dry down some. So I'll do a couple nails, go back and cap, you know, one or two, then do a couple, then go back and cap, because like I said, otherwise if you don't, these gold flakes will not stay. Okay, I know some people try and glue theirs down. I don't recommend that unless you want like a mess. I feel like, to be honest, I've been doing nails for quite some time, and this is the most effective way to get it done. So now we're going on with our cap layer, our encapsulation layer, right? And I'm using a good amount, and basically just like you're gonna do, just like as if it was a basic set, you want to make sure that layer is thick enough so that way you don't have to keep going back and forth. You want to make sure that it gets over on the sidewalls though. So see how I'm pressing it and I'm making sure that it goes over the sidewalls, like the sides of the nails. So when it gets to the tip, we're making sure that it fully encases the nail, because if you do not make sure the sides are covered, like see how I'm making sure the sides are covered, stuff is not going to be right. Moisture can get in the nail, and I feel like that's one of the things that people don't think about. When you're encapsulating, you don't want to just worry about the surface. You want to make sure the sides have acrylic on them, because not only for strength purposes, but also to make sure that nothing is hanging out of your design and that there's no pockets of acrylic where moisture and things can get in, because then your enhancement's not going to last. Okay. Another thing is with clear, because we are doing an encapsulation, it's going to be hard to see when you get to the cuticle area. Okay. So you're going to have to be a little bit extra careful, and sometimes you're going to see me in the video at one point. Sometimes you're going to have to just go back and add what you need to add, okay? because clear is hard to see, and also when you are encapsulating, there's a thin line between too much and not enough. So I just recommend starting with what looks right, and honestly, clear self levels pretty well. So sometimes if your beads are a little wetter, stuff is gonna flatten out weird. It's not gonna stick and be like solid. It's gonna kind of like a cake. It can flatten out, like, or a souffle, like, oh, things aren't right, it's gonna go flat in the middle. Sometimes that happens, and that's how you end up with a nail that's bulky on all the sides but not strong enough in the center or on the surface part of the nail, is because the acrylic is already self-leveling. So if you don't have enough, or if you're working too wet, it's going to self-level too much, and you're not going to have enough of an apex. So that's what you see me doing right here, is making sure that we have enough of an apex, because the nails will break. Okay, and I feel like that's why encapsulation sets are so hard, is because you're having to put the strength in the nail after you already did this layer of whatever. So I feel like some people think that base layer is like adding some sort of strength, which honestly it's really not. So do not depend on your base layer of whatever stuff you're encapsulating. Do not depend on that to give you strength, because the strength is going to be within the apex and within the sides of the nail. Okay, it's gonna be kind of crazy, because when you're doing sets that are literally just clear and clear and clear, like there's no other colors, there's no real main ombre or anything like that, the sides of the nails is gonna seem kind of thin, but it's okay. Don't try and thicken them up too much, because when you go and file, it's going to thicken them up more, if that makes sense. It's kind of like a hard concept to understand. In a way, it took me a while to realize that, wow, this is probably why my encapsulated nails, or like clear nails, let's say just clear, because it's really just when you're working with clear by itself, and that's the main color, it's worked differently than other colors and stuff. Yeah, but anyway, so you just want to make sure that it's an even layer. You notice how I'm keeping everything nice and even. If I notice anything out of whack, I'm gonna pull it down. And this is why I always tell people, like, sometimes having a smaller brush can work to your disadvantage, because you're not able to encapsulate in the quickest fashion and the most neatest fashion, and it will take you quite some time to encapsulate because you're working with a small oval shaped brush instead of something that is more kind of shaped like a shovel in a way or something. But I'm able to pick up more acrylic and still have control, and you're gonna see me right now. I'm sorry you guys, I'm tired, I'm not really feeling well. Okay, I'm not sick or nothing, but child, these cramps and things, it's not a game. Okay, definitely not a game. So you see how I'm just really making sure that I'm keeping my acrylic even. I'm making sure my apex is building up, and I'm also making sure I take the time to make sure everything is tucked around those cuticles, because I'm telling you, if you don't pay attention, you're either going to end up flooding the cuticles and not really notice because it's clear, and you're not going to notice until it's dry. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, or you're going to have too many gaps in between, and it's just not gonna sit right. So you have to pay a lot of attention. You have to take a lot of care. It can be tricky, you guys. Anywhere that you feel like you need extra acrylic, do not be stingy. Make sure you add it. Okay, now what you want to look out for is if you're feeling like it's getting to the point where you're working on one nail for quite some time, you're feeling like, dang, it's lumpy and bumpy, you feel like I'm filling in these little potholes in the nail, but stuff is still not right, go and move on to the next nail and give that one some time to dry. Because sometimes when you keep adding acrylic on over and over and over, each like layer you add is going to self level, and if it's still wet and you keep on adding wet acrylic to wet acrylic, it's going to cause it to kind of like level even more, and basically your end result, like I said, it's going to look flat but also be very wide on the sides. It's going to just cause bulk. So you have to be very careful in that sense. And like I said, I think that's why everyone struggles with encapsulated sets at first, because it can be very hard when to know, does this look good? Because I tell you, it has a different look than when you use regular clear acrylic, regular colored acrylic. So you can see I'm always looking from all sides, and at this point I kind of was like, you know what, I feel like this is kind of getting a little thicker than what I would necessarily want. So I'm trying to rearrange the acrylic because it's still on the wetter side. It's like not all the way dry. So I'm just like patting and pulling to get something that I'm cool with for the moment. And we want to do this so that way we're not stuck on shaping later on. Because if it's one thing I learned, you can have that base layer nice as you want to have it. We could have did that marble, kept it just so nice and crisp to the shape. But if this encapsulation layer gets out of control, then what's going to happen is you're going to be sitting there filing forever. Then you're going to have really thick sides. You're going to have to keep adjusting, keep going back and forth, and that's going to take away from the stuff in your first encapsulation layer. Okay, so you see I did 2 nails at a time, and then basically what I'm going to do is go ahead and do this index finger, right? Because like I said, on sets where I'm using a lot of gold flakes like this is the only way that allows me to move as fast as possible and not run into the problem of my gold flakes coming off. Okay, so I'm gonna do this one, and then I think what I'm doing is I'm gonna encapsulate the middle finger and then the index, and I'll probably do everything for the thumb by itself, which at that point I'm like, okay, it's not a big deal because it's just one finger. But yeah, seriously consider doing stuff like that. If, like I said, actually I haven't said this yet, but the majority of doing nails is critical thinking and process. Okay, the process matters. Everyone does have their own way that they work, but once you get to the point to where not only can you keep stuff fast and you can like I don't even want to call it cutting corners, but you can just become more effective. That's what it's called. When your efficacy is a lot more ramped up and your brain can fire out different ideas and just different solutions to problems like right away, that's how you will start becoming very much more comfortable. Like when you start becoming more efficient and quicker, but your quality doesn't change, and in fact it can improve, that's what you want. Okay, I know everybody is different. Some people don't mind being on the slower side, or some people don't mind, you know, taking the long route. But me personally, I use every client as a way to make things a lot more convenient for me doing nails, as well as maintaining my quality, but improving and you know, just getting faster in general. So just a little tip for you. So you can see how I keep looking at the nails. It's because now that they're getting dry, I'm looking like, okay, is there anything I need to do now? Did it self level too much? Okay, now I do get people asking me questions. Do I use like builder gel, poly gels, all that? I do not do any gel enhancements of any kind. I strictly work with acrylic. The only gel I use is polish. Okay, but these tips and stuff will still work with gel, because gel, like builder gel and all that stuff, it is also self-leveling to an extent. And where acrylic air dries, gel basically cures in a lamp. So if you're a person who works with gel, you can still partially use some of these tips. Okay, like for instance, yes, we're using a nice solid layer. That would still work for gel too, because I imagine that no matter what you're encapsulating, I mean, it has the ability to get lumpy and bumpy if you have too much or not enough acrylic, you know. So I would imagine that if you were using gel as well, you could still take this tip right here of bring it down in one solid mass to an extent, depending on how you do your application, you know what I mean? So even if you don't use acrylic, hopefully you can still get some use out of this video. Okay, but like I said, make sure that all sides have clear on them, and you will know if the clear was able to cap all sides is because when it dries, you will see gapping. You will actually see a change in color with the areas that are properly encapsulated versus the areas that the tip is still showing. Even if you're using clear tips, you're going to be able to notice, okay? Because you will be able to see that it's just different. Like there's not like this cast of clear over it. It just will look like straight up clear, you know? Like the acrylic has like a little cloudiness to it versus the nail tip itself, if that makes sense. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, here we are. I'm really hoping that this helps you guys out. I've been holding on to this video probably for the last month, because not only was it long, but I was just trying to figure out, like, do I want to use it to show people like, hey, how to do a marble, or hey, how to encapsulate, or hey, how to, you know. So I was kind of figuring out which direction I wanted to go, and then I'm also trying to stretch my content, because you know, I'm not like booked every single day. Well, I took today off because I said I wanted to do my nails, but y'all, the way my period kind of took me for a loop, not only yesterday, but man, today at 4 o'clock in the morning, like I was literally, I think I told you guys before, mine's are very painful, very stressful. My cramps are already coming back. I took a very heavy medication that's supposed to last 12 hours, and honestly, I took it at 4 a.m. and by 8 a.m., yeah, so I'm very limited on what I can take, and I have to take meds or I'm screwed. I'm not that girl that can just get a heating pad and drink some tea. Like, girl, no, doesn't work, unfortunately. I'm very, very, very strong. I honestly, it's like labor pains. So that's where we are currently. So I know I don't sound myself. My energy level is kind of like, I really want to do my nails, but honestly, we'll see if I get to it. I want to force myself to like get up, but yeah, anyways, so you can see after I capped that one and did the index, I'm doing the thumb, putting down the base layer, and you can see, look at the view of the index finger, right? There's no like, it's not been encapsulated yet, so you can see how like flat it is. So you can see, like, that's what I mean by saying, like, don't make that layer the bottom layer, don't make it too thick. And also try to keep it as smooth as possible, because it's going to make your life so much easier when you encapsulate. If you do not make it as smooth as you can, like, obviously there's wiggle room. Like, if you have some lumps and bumps, it's not that serious. But if every area of the nail is a different thickness, if every part of the nail is like a different thickness or a different height, you know, it's gonna make it hard to encapsulate, and you will get stuck with really thick nails. Because I'll be honest with you, I'll be honest with you, when I was first starting out doing nails, I really loved encapsulating, but I was not that good at it. Like, they were very thick. And I'm talking about, they were so thick you could not cut the nails off. Like, you guys know tip cutters, like old school tip cutters. The nails could not fit through those tips whatsoever, not even the tip of it. And if it did fit through, it wasn't going past literally 2 centimeters, if that. I'm not even kidding at all. If you scroll all the way down on my Instagram page, you will see like the majority of my old stuff. The only stuff that I took off was stuff that had the background of the old shop I worked in, because it has like the name of the shop in the picture, like on the paper we put in the background, and I don't represent that shop no more, so I took those off. But everything else is still there, so you can see for yourself, okay? But yeah, so this is why you want to make sure that you kind of are consistent with how you are doing your design underneath this encapsulation, because you just want to make sure that all the nails can come out the same and you have wiggle room. Because if that bottom layer is too thick, what's going to happen is you're gonna want to encapsulate thinner, because that happens too. So if you make a mistake and that layer is way too thick or bumpy, you can do just a very small encapsulation. Do not feel the need that like, oh, you have to put this big old layer. No, only do what you need to get the structure that you need. Okay, so if I were to do like an ombre, like how you guys know, right? When I do an ombre, I do the tip not too thick, but you know, a little bit of substance, and I build up the apex with the nude. So when I cap, I'm really only capping for the blend. And on short nails, right, I do what I need to do, and I'm pretty much only capping for the sake of covering the design so it doesn't get filed away, right? So you will start to learn that when you encapsulate different things, there is going to be different ways that you encapsulate, because not everything is going to require such a thick layer like this. But because of this, y'all, I'm so sorry, I apologize. I can't speak, but because of this particular design being so minimal, yeah, I have to put the entire structure into the nail. Okay. I'm trying to think. I do have videos, obviously, of like a bunch of different ombres on my channel. So if you are curious about more of how to encapsulate for an ombre, just click on any of my ombre videos, and I'm sure I have some footage of me doing the process of encapsulation as well. And I know clients, they may get confused on like, what's encapsulation? I used to get asked that all the time. I feel like now it's more common, so they don't ask as much, but it can be tricky because there's some things that look encapsulated but that might not be. For instance, those sequins that I showed you in the beginning, they're like little gold whatever. You don't have to encapsulate those, right? There's some stuff that don't have to be. So if you just wanted something that said Virgo just on the tip, because I'm doing it this way, yes, I would encapsulate. But if this was a plain set and they wanted that, to be honest with you, I'm just gonna glue it down and I'm gonna put a thick layer of clear coat with top coat. Like, I'm gonna kind of encapsulate with top coat, kind of how I do a rumbling. So there's many different, like, that's what I mean about like finding the way that works best for you, because all in all, you know, everything don't work for everybody. But yeah, when it comes to much smaller things, or if you don't have to encapsulate a lot, or if you wanted to, you could, like, you can glue it down and lay the tiniest bit of clear over so it's not going to move under the top coat. But then realizing that, you know, in those type of instances, if you're going to encapsulate just like literally something tiny on the tip of a nail, but that might cause a little bulkiness on the tip of the nail, because hey, I've done that too, to where you can't file too much, because if you do file, you're gonna file straight through that encapsulation that you just put in. And yeah, it's so just, you kind of have to just work with it. Give yourself some time to learn, give yourself some wiggle room if you're new. Oh man. Yeah, and always look from all angles, because like I said, you want consistency across the board, and you want to just make sure that no matter what, the structure is gonna be there. Okay, so don't just assume like, okay, I put some clear on top, so now the design won't get messed up. But just keep in mind, you got to make sure the strength is there too. I know for people who use straight nails, there are a lot of people that I'm noticing, they do not encapsulate very much. Like, when they encapsulate, it's just a very, very, very thin layer. And I understand the tips are on the thicker side, but just make sure you know, like, the strength does not come from tips. The strength comes from the apex and where the natural nail meets the enhancement. So if you're depending on the nail tip to provide you with the strength that you need for these nails to last, then you're gonna have like a lot of problems, honestly, and you're gonna have a lot of clients complaining to you about your stuff kind of not lasting, you know. So just keep that in mind. Obviously not for everybody, but just like, yeah, I'm just explaining where the strength of the nail actually comes from. Because a lot of people are saying like, oh, I stopped doing long nails because, you know, long nails automatically break. But they don't have to. That's depending on your lifestyle as well as the nail tech's quality. So, you know, I have some clients, they don't do well with long nails, just particularly because of the type of job that they have. Where's the dog? You guys, I apologize. Anyways, I'm saying all this to say that encapsulating nails isn't as hard as you might think it is. It just takes a lot of practice to get it to the point where you want it to be. But the basic idea is, I'm putting this design down and I'm smushing it between a layer of clear. Boom. And once you've realized how your preferred method of like doing stuff is and how you can get stuff done, you'll realize what method you need to use to encapsulate. So what was that? Oh, somebody outside. Okay, so basically this is pretty much it, you guys. Just once again, just a quick recap, making sure that you are getting close enough into the cuticle area so you don't cause gapping, you see, but also making sure you're cleaning up enough that you don't cause flooding. We want to make sure that our base layer, whatever you are encapsulating, you want to make sure that it's nice and flat, work thin. But if you need to encapsulate stuff that's not a big deal, or you're just encapsulating, you know, for the blend, for the design, for that one piece of sequin, you know, you have options. That's all I'm trying to say, is you have options. Maybe I'll do a different video about encapsulating, you know, tiny items, because I feel like that would be a very big help to some people who think that they have to do like a thin layer of acrylic and cap everything. And also, I always tell people always ask me, you don't have to cap color, you know, like people only do that when they're like, they tell you to do that when they themselves, they get nervous that the nails will break, so they're adding extra strength. If you've got quality colors and a quality brand, you don't have to encapsulate a basic color set, because that's just taking way longer and using way more product than you need to. Okay, so anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. You guys know my goal is to get to 5,000 subscribers by New Year's Day. On New Year's Day, well, honestly, New Year's Eve, basically. But you know, I feel like we can get there. So far we just got into the 3,200 subscribers. You know, we're building up each week. I'm gonna try and keep the no, I'm not gonna try, I am gonna keep the content coming, because I'm getting pretty excited for the holidays. Here is what it looks like after purely application, which back then I was thinking like, damn, these are hella thick and kind of, you know, not my best, but you know what, they're not bad. They honestly is not bad. And then of course here we have the final shape after I'm done shaping. Once again, I hope you guys really enjoyed these videos. I appreciate y'all for subscribing, and y'all already know I'll see you guys in the next one.